If androgenic signaling increases bone integrity, muscle recovery, etc., as well as estrogen enhancing collagen synthesis, why would you be coming off of HRT? Is there not another reason entirely that you're doing it for? Like, how could you justify coming off HRT improving your injury recovery when it seems like it would do the complete opposite? What's up, guys? Derek, moreplace.com. Today we are going to be talking about Greg Doucette and coming off of TRT. So, obviously he's been very outspoken and transparent about being on TRT for years now. And when he does blast phases in the past, he says what he's using. And then when he goes back to TRT, he says exactly what the dose is. And, the question arises, like, why would you be coming off? Like, if anything, in your 40s, you would think, if you come off of TRT, even if you had like a lot of people are speculating about what is the real reason he came off, because it makes no logical sense why you would come off in your mid 40s unless you were trying to, have a kid, you had some like major health issue or something. And I kind of wanted to just like go through it and kind of, give my take on the situation and what makes sense and what makes absolutely no sense. Actually, is like the main thing we're going to be talking about, because a lot of people are speculating that, he could be trying to drop muscle in order to, be better on the bike. He could be, trying to restore fertility. He could have some major health issue that he needs to come off for. So the first thing I want to address is the health issue. If you had some like major debilitating health problem from androgen use, this would be something that would derive from abuse during, hardcore blast phases. If you're using physiologic replacement, which obviously there's an argument for if, 140 milligrams, depending on the person, if that's actually physiologic replacement or not. But in general, that's the relative equivalent of what natural output would equate to in a total testosterone level. So even though, your SHBG is going to be disproportionately lower, hence having a higher free T, and that level you maintain it throughout the day chronically without any kind of dips or anything like that based on lifestyle or diet changes, it's representative of a total testosterone production that is natural, So will that amount of test cause some major health issue? The evidence does not seem to imply that it would. You would not really get anything out of coming off of TRT in your mid 40s if in a health context, if you were actually having a health crisis, the last thing you should probably be doing is coming off of your prescription medications that your doctor has, recommended for you and crashing your hormones into the ground. Having androgen and estrogen deficiency is not going to be conducive to healing whatever, speculated health problem is that people, may think he has. So for me, I don't think this is a health thing. I think the reason he is outlining is actually the reason that he's coming off. Like, I don't see why he would, divert or whatever, like try and, dodge the actual reason by putting up this, like he claims it's for a injury recovery, which we're going to be getting into soon. But as far as, the speculative, health crisis stuff, I don't think so, dude. Like, I think he would, that would come as a result of abuse. And even though he's used, heavy duty shit in the past, he'll be the first to tell you, I don't think the answer, even if he did have an issue, would be crashing your hormones and coming off. Like, that would not be something that would correct some sort of major, organ stress or something. Like, it's a physiologic replacement. It's not like he's going from 500 down to 0. He's coming from TRT down to 0. Like actual TRT, not like 200 to 300 mgs per week, like actual 140 milligrams of test per week, which is, very realistically, like most people would define as actual therapeutic TRT. So anyways, getting into the reason, and, I'm surprised there hasn't been a video yet, to be honest, because apparently I'm like way behind the curve in terms of finding out about this, because he actually posted it a while ago. So if you go through his Instagram, he's posted as far back as, and this might not even be the furthest back one, but this is February 13th, circa 2012, missing the days of when I could train triceps properly. Hoping being off HRT allows me to fix my triceps tendon issue. So far not doing too bad despite low test levels. The worst part is I'm having hard time traveling. So So the comment section, obviously a bunch of people are like, well, why are you coming off TRT? You're off TRT? Excited for the video where you explain why you're off TRT. I have bad elbow issues in both arms. Does HRT increase the problem? Anyone care to explain the correlation between getting off HRT and healing his tendon issue? And then everyone says, you know, there's a lot of speculation in these comment sections, so we're going to kind of get through it, and then I'll kind of give my take on the issue overall. I got the same question. I've been dealing with elbow pain for over 8 months while giving my body a lot of rest. Steroids can weaken your tendons. Your muscles will get stronger faster than your joints and tendons, basically. No, he's not sarcastic. Working out while being on PEDs will make your muscle grow faster. Muscles can't handle to be trained harder. Joints and tendons can't really handle the stress. So the main problem with exogenous anabolics on, like when you're actually trying to grow, is that your muscle and strength growth will outpace your tendon's ability to adapt to the stress induced upon it. So if you are, you know, benching, you know, 2 plates for 12, and then you hit a fat, you know, double deca test cycle and you go up to 3 plates for, you know, 6 to 8 or whatever it is in the matter of, you know, 12 weeks, obviously your tendons are not going to catch up as fast as your muscle is able to. Like, the amount of strength you can gain disproportionately in a short time frame with some of these like heavy duty, you know, bulking drugs, or even, you know, dry compounds too, but more so some of these compounds that give enhanced leverage in the gym, you can't maintain that pace with tendon adaptation with your strength increases. So, but does it make any sense in the context of what Greg is doing, where he is on TRT? He's not trying to grow. I highly doubt he's trying to increase his lift significantly and go for, you know, PRs and stuff. I would imagine, if anything, he's trying to figure out ways to increase his longevity. I think he cares more about, like, you know, performance on the bike than he gives a shit about like 1 rep maxes nowadays. So I would not think that would make any sense whatsoever, in terms of the reason being, oh, don't you know that when you take exogenous anabolics, your tendons can get injured faster because you make strength gains so quick? It's like, I highly doubt he really cares right now about his strength gains. Does HRT damage tendons? Yes. How? Not just HRT. Every PED causes your muscles to grow faster than the tendons. Like, it's physiological replacement. We're not talking about PEDs. We're not talking about, like, yeah, obviously you can claim testosterone is a PED. In the context, though, this is HRT we're discussing here. So no, so that puts an additional strain on your tendons when you do heavy lifts, because your muscles can bear that, but not the tendons. So you end up damaging your tendons. So if you're on any enhancement, you need to train smart and not ego lift. It doesn't directly damage your tendon. So obviously people don't really, you know, aren't 100% certain. This is one of the more, the details he gave. So he says, 3 years ago, this is what I looked like after surgically repairing my broken elbow. Today, the arm that broke is in fact better than my good arm. Not been able to train triceps without severe pain for a long time. And because of that, the arm continues to shrink. So this, you know, this is his explanation of the backstory of why he is prioritizing fixing this tricep thing, like, to the point where it's actually pushing him off of HRT. Doing the best I can, and having gone off HRT, I'm doing the best I can. It's tough having to actually train and ride my bike on my own. So, because typically TRT does that, you know. Even my time travel ability is almost gone. We'll be posting future vids on my blood work and what's going on to explain. Way too much to say on an IG post. So this was 2 weeks ago. Let's see. Why doesn't the HRT just... wait, so is your arm still shrinking, or is it better than the good one now? Or are you actually coming off HRT, or are you trolling? The small arm in the pic is my good arm now. So why is he going... I think this is one of the same guys who commented before. Why is he going off HRT? So this guy says to impregnate his miss, which I don't think he would... I'm pretty sure he just said it's for his tendon. Because testosterone makes the tendons weaker and thinner, which promotes injury and pain. Even if you're on low dose, after a period of time, you will need to get off TRT. Like, I don't think that's accurate to say, because testosterone makes your tendons weaker and thinner, which even if you're on a low dose, after a period of time, you need to get off TRT. Like, no, dude, that is definitely not the case. This is to fix a major injury he had. He mentions literally in the caption, he had a broken arm, or repairing his broken elbow. Today, the arm that broke is in fact better, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, he had to get literal surgery, and then it hasn't been the same since, obviously. So it's obviously silly to say that everyone on TRT needs to come off. Like, that's one of those like bro science HRT clinic things where like, yeah, you need to cycle off because your receptors will get like down regulated if you stay on testosterone for too long. or yeah, you're going to make yourself injured. Like, no, Greg has a pre-existing injury, and this is to fix a long-standing issue, obviously. Okay, so going on to a newer post where he describes in further detail. And I may be missing some major details from his videos, to be honest, because I haven't actually seen specifically in like a long form video where he addresses it. So maybe I'm missing some major details here, but I'm just going off his Instagram stuff where he talks about the HRT specifically. So in this one, he challenges Nick Bare Fitness to a race here. And then people in the comment section, we're talking about the HRT again. Greg says, I've literally been off HRT for a month. Said so in how many videos, and you don't even know this. So like, I just found out like recently too. So obviously I haven't been paying enough attention. Are you guys not even watching any of my videos? I've been off HRT for a freaking month. Sorry, coach, I'll do better. Scrolling up to this one, left, natural, 179 pounds, right, not natural, 209 pounds. Talking about realistic expectations and PEDs and whatnot. And here he has bench press training before getting injured more than last time. Was on a blast for this, repping 5 plates on the bench. I believe I was 219 here in comparison to under 190 today, seeing as I've been off HRT for over a month. But no, you don't believe me because I just trying to brag about having amazing genetics and that you can't just lift weights like this if you take a shit ton of drugs. Truth hurts sometimes. My natural versus enhanced bench is about 80 pounds different. Trust me, 99.9% of people on gear are not and will not be setting world record in the bench. It's unreal to see how far in the dark most people are. Every time I see someone learning, another moron comes out to replace them. And Sush pops in, 1,000 likes, and Greg blasts trend for the culture. It's funny when you go into the comment section. I'm looking for more of the HRT updates, and you just see people hopping in here who just trying to get sick engagement, bro. Okay, so scroll down the comment section of this video a bit. Off HRT to heal, I would think it would facilitate in helping you to heal more, no? Are you taking anything different to help with healing your tendon? BPC 157, TB 500 haven't had noticeable results with the peptide personally post tendon, holy shit. Tendonis. OP, didn't think about HRT inhibiting healing though. You have a video discussing that at all and what you're taking to help heal. I'll post an update on all of this and what I've done after my next appointment with my sports doctor. Oh, there we go. So there, the video is coming. See, the thing is, I was thinking about messaging Greg myself and just being like, so like, what's the deal with all this? But you know, obviously that would just like cannibalize the views from his video where he'll actually explain elaborate detail. But I'm going to give my stance is mainly on the dropping HRT in terms of tendon recovery. So anyways, scrolling back up, these are the most recent ones. HRT free physique update, under 190 pounds 2 days in a row. I never turned into a marshmallow. I can say that I'm way more sore than I have been in a long time, but other than that, doing good so far. If anything, I'd say I've gotten leaner, likely due to the fact that testosterone causes bloating and water retention. I'd say most people would actually think the opposite and believe that if you stop taking tests, you would look fatter. It's not the case. If I ate too many calories and stopped doing cardio and used being off HRT as an excuse, then sure, I'd look fatter, but regardless of HRT, you still can't break the laws of thermodynamics. I do miss being able to time travel, however, which will be a problem, you know, when you're trying to make videos proactively, you know, not having the time travel ability can be problematic. So the one thing to note though, is he's been off for about, over a month. Now, if you're on a long ester like Testy, I'm sure he was probably prescribed like Delatestrel by Valiant or something like that. It's like the Canadian pharma grade testosterone and enanthate. You know, you're looking at a clearance time of not 2 weeks, which is traditionally what a lot of people think. Oh, you start your PCT after 2 weeks. Like, no, for full clearance time, you're probably looking at about a month before the testosterone and its downstream metabolites have cleared enough for your HPTA to start kicking back up. We saw this recently with Pete Rubish, where he was off for months and he, using a elaborate PCT regimen, did absolutely nothing for him. And then, interestingly enough, after using absolutely nothing for another month, his LH and FSH like doubled, and then his testosterone levels quadrupled or more than that. Even so, when he was not using anything for PCT, he had more results than he did prior to actually trying to, you know, facilitate recovery. And that's not a result of the PCT being like a bad idea or anything. Rather, it is simply that he did not have the things that were causing negative feedback really out of his system significantly enough for his HPTA to kick back up. So, you know, we will likely see what the actual, you know, outcome is of going HRT free as the, you know, coming months continue with Greg. Like, it's not like the first month is more so about hormone clearance than actually seeing the physiologic changes that will occur by being absolutely natty. So a lot of this is still like residual T in the system. And obviously you're going to dry out a lot, like you said, when the estrogen kind of clears its way out of your system. How does that play into your tendon recovery though, when you have a total lack of testosterone and estrogen for a reasonable duration of time while you try to kick back up and recover? You know, that is what we're going to be getting into next after I finish reading this last post. So he says he's HRT free here, 189.2 pounds. Physique update, still think my genetics are only in the top 50 to 90%. Yes, I've lost some muscle. Of course, you're going to when you stop taking PEDs, but that does not mean that muscle you worked for your entire life will suddenly disappear. Obviously, going from 140 mgs a week to nothing will not cause as great a loss as if I were on test trend and everything else. But since I was on such low doses of test, the impact of stopping the test is not as dramatic. So yeah, obviously the first month, you know, you're gonna dry out a bit as the estrogen clears, and you're going to lose some of that intramuscular fullness and whatnot. And as the coming months come, will be the really far more indicative of what he can maintain naturally. Because for the first month, like I said, it's largely about hormone clearance rather than your body actually kicking back and then getting, you know, what is representative of your natural endogenous production and what you can hold on to with those levels. And it's not like muscle just, you know, falls off overnight. So, you know, I speculate he would lose, you know, a little bit more mass in the coming months if he indeed, you know, stays off HRT. But, you know, he obviously has very good genetics. Like, top 50 to 90% is a huge understatement for, I don't know if people say that quite often about him, but obviously he's like, if you're an IFBB pro, you're like the fucking elite of genetics. So obviously you would expect him to maintain a significant more, like, he'll probably look like he's on gear relative to a guy who's on gear with not like top 50% genetics, you know what I mean? So I would expect him to maintain a still very good physique even once he comes off. Okay, so this is where he discusses the reason again. People are still wondering, what's the deal? If you were on prescribed HRT, then why would you stop unless you didn't need it in the first place? Just curious here. So everyone that uses HRT doesn't need it, LOL. Maybe a few percentage of people that do, but those are the people who have real medical issues and don't even work out. So obviously that is a dumb comment. Greg has stated why he went off HRT, and I've heard both that he wants to do a tested meet on his bike and also that he has a naggy triceps injury he is trying to address. It's certainly not to do a drug-tested bike race, LOL, but certainly has a lot to do with what my sports doctor told me and the tricep. So that sort of makes the question arise, you know, if androgenic signaling increases bone integrity, muscle recovery, etc., as well as estrogen enhancing collagen synthesis, why would you be coming off of HRT? Is there not another reason entirely that you're doing it for? Like, how could you justify coming off HRT improving your injury recovery when it seems like it would do the complete opposite? So that's where I want to dig into. And frankly, I didn't even really know for certain. So I wanted to dig into this myself and kind of elucidate on some of the research. So one of the main things I found that was the most useful to reference was a paper called Sex Hormones and Tendon. So this is basically elaborating on the mechanism behind how sex hormones in the body influence tendon integrity and whatnot, and injuries, the prevalence of them in men versus women, and interestingly enough, at what points of their lives it happens. So you would think, oh, women, you know, they have peaked estrogen levels when they are in their youth, so therefore they're going to be, you know, less prone to injury. They're going to have better tendon integrity, and when they're in menopause, they're going to have horrible tendons and everything's going to fall apart. Whereas for men, it's going to be when your testosterone declines, everything's going to slowly fall apart. And it's like, yeah, as you get older, things are going to be more prone to injury. But an interesting contradictory thing I found that I was not even really aware of is what I'm going to delve into with you guys here. The risk of overuse and traumatic tendon and ligament injuries differ between women and men. Part of this gender difference in injury risk is probably explained by sex hormonal differences, which are specifically distinct during the sexual maturation in the teen years. And during young adulthood, the effects of the separate sex hormones are not fully elucidated. So even the researchers don't even fucking know. However, in women, the presence of estrogen in contrast to very low estrogen levels may be beneficial during regular loading of the tissue or during recovering after an injury, as estrogen can enhance tendon collagen synthesis rate. So this is, you know, what I thought going into this. I'm like, so yeah, how does that make sense that you would, when you come off TRT, not only do you lose that androgenic signaling from the testosterone DHT, but you also lose the estrogen that aromatizes, which would induce that collagen synthesis upregulation. But in here it says, yet in active young female athletes, physiological high concentration of estrogen may enhance the risk of injuries due to reduced fibrillar cross-linking and enhanced joint laxity. In men, testosterone can enhance tendon stiffness, and obviously this is the more relevant, concept here, the testosterone effect on tendon integrity. So in men, testosterone can enhance tendon stiffness due to an enhanced tendon collagen turnover and collagen content. But testosterone has also been linked to a reduced responsiveness to relaxin. So in here, they talk about how sex difference in tendon injury risk, tendon morphology, and tendon collagen turnover. And by the end of the thing, like they go into it with elaborate detail, and what you find by the end is that they don't really know what the answer is. So you can see how, certain sports doctors may have their own, like, certain interpretation of the literature and what they see in their own anecdotal, findings too, with their own patients and whatnot, what seems to make the most sense and what has the greatest probability of recovery in every specific scenario. So for Greg, with his tendon, like, I don't actually know exactly what's wrong. I just know he had that broken bone, and then thereafter he had issues with imbalances in the arms. And since then, it seems like he's had some severe pain that's debilitating and is not really going away. So obviously he wants to fix that. So he's willing to go to like reasonably extreme measures to do that. And it seems like in general, the androgenic signaling and the downstream conversion to estrogen, despite, indicating that for tendon, joint, bone integrity, etc., recovery, you would think this is only going to improve things. Perhaps in his context, in this situation, his doctor in particular interprets it in this way, where there is some contradictory findings that indicate that perhaps having lower amounts of these hormones may actually be able to prevent some sort of contradictory opposing thing that's causing degradation or is preventing it from recovering fully. Now, this is like the total opposite of what I would have expected, to be honest, but it says, like, the conclusion basically elaborates, however, it is difficult to sort out the isolated effect of the sex hormones in cross-sectional studies comparing women and men, or users and non-users of sex hormonal administration. So literally talking about people using like HRT here, since the groups may differ in other ways, training status, e.g. training status. Nevertheless, both estrogen, testosterone, and balanced physiological concentrations seem to be important for tendon health and physical functions, whereas very low or high concentrations of endogenous or exogenous administered sex hormones may lead to an enhanced risk of injuries and inadequate adaptation to mechanical loading. So again, this is sort of referring to if you're attempting to increase, your max lifts and whatnot, the tendon is not going to keep up. But it's not really representative of what Greg is doing right now or what his goals are, in my opinion. Like, he's not trying to be a world record powerlifter or some shit right now. He's trying to be a, like, high tier, not cyclist, like, fucking good pun, but, like like a bike rider. It's hard to say cyclist in, like, even on this channel at all without, like, everyone going to the other thing. The research up to now is primarily focused on the ACL, Achilles, and the patellar tendon. The future may elucidate whether sex hormones influence tendons and ligaments differently, depending on their localization and function. So the overall conclusion is this can be interpreted in different ways. You'll see men and women, based on their sex hormone profile, having different risks of injury, different likelihoods of recovering in what time frame. And evidently, there are different ways to interpret this. It's not as cut and dry. Like, I would have thought, keep your testosterone and estrogen where they are, because that is what's going to enhance, recovery processes, increase angiogenesis locally, and increase all these different growth factors that would otherwise improve and enhance the recovery process. But evidently, there are other ways to look at this that, a lot of people I feel like are overlooking, because I'm sure Greg will elucidate it in his video, because I couldn't really figure it out. And looking into this stuff, it doesn't seem as obvious as you would think. You would think, just max out GH, test, estrogen, everything should be peaked in order to maximize your recovery. And I think it's very context dependent, and I can't imagine a situation where crashing really makes sense, but obviously I'm not looking at this with as wide of with as open of a mind as I should have, because going into this, like, this didn't make sense to me either. So I'm looking forward to the explanation video from Greg, and I'm sure it's been on his to-do list for a while now, because I didn't realize this has been happening. Like, he's been talking about it for weeks at this point. So obviously a pretty, big deal. He's very outspoken about his TRT. So everyone is very, very interested to see what his overarching stances on why he justified it made sense to come off. So I look forward to the video, and I'm sure we'll all learn something, because to be honest, this is a very, very convoluted topic, evidently, because not many people can come to a concrete conclusion on what makes sense here. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates1dates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates1, more dates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, it's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas, design myself from scratch, and anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.